I want to start today with a very specific feeling. And I don't think it's a happy one. Not really. It's more of a breaking point.
Okay.
It's that moment when all the noise in your life, the notifications, the mental checklists, that constant low-grade anxiety of, am I doing enough?
Yeah.
It just stops.
It just cuts out.
Yeah, and not because you fixed everything, not because you hit inbox zero. It stops because your internal system, it refuses to process one more thing. It's like a system crash.
It's the blue screen of death for the human psyche. You're shifting from endurance mode into, well, refusal mode.
Exactly. And that brings us to the source material we're unpacking today. It's a text called The Architecture of Inner Quietude. Now, normally we're diving into, tech trends or business strategy, but this felt really different. Reading it felt like taking a massive exhale after holding my breath for about 10 years.
I get that.
It's being described as a manifesto for the person who has just stopped running. The person who no longer feels that crushing need to prove anything to anyone.
And what's so fascinating is how it frames that stopping. It's not seen as a failure or giving up. It's framed as a biological and psychological upgrade.
An upgrade, right.
We're so conditioned to look for loud success, growth you can post about, numbers going up. But this source is interested in something much harder to measure. It calls it nervous system maturity.
That phrase, nervous system maturity, we're going to spend a lot of time on that today because it blew my mind. It sounds so clinical.
A little bit, yeah.
But the way they apply it is deeply philosophical.
Right.
So big picture. The mission for this deep dive is to explore what happens when you shift from performing for the world to actually integrating with yourself.
And it sets up this really clear dichotomy. It's what it calls the myth of urgency versus the reality of quiet growth.
Myth of urgency, I feel that in my bones.
If we look at the source, it points to a huge cultural pressure. It says the world rewards urgent success, urgent healing, and urgent happiness.
Oh, totally. It's not just work hard. It's fix your trauma in 30 days.
Yeah.
Or launch your six-figure business by Friday. Everything's an emergency.
Even self-care.
Yes, even self-care has become a hustle. I feel like I need to optimize my meditation or I'm failing at relaxing.
Precisely. And it creates this state of constant hyperarousal. Your body is always bracing for impact.
Right.
But the source contrasts this with real growth. And here's the key takeaway that really makes you rethink how you live your life.
Yep.
Real growth doesn't announce itself. It happens beneath the surface. To an outside observer, it's actually kind of boring.
I love the examples the source gives for this.
Yeah.
Because they're so mundane, but when you actually try to do them, they feel almost impossible.
Like what?
Because growth looks like canceling plans without feeling that pit of guilt in your stomach.
Which is incredibly difficult for so many of us. We are trained to overfunction.
Or not explaining yourself. That's the big one for me. Just, doing what's right for you, maybe saying no to something or quitting a project, and not feeling like you have to write a whole press release to justify it.
It's choosing peace even when the ego wants applause. That is such a critical distinction the source makes.
The ego loves the struggle.
It does, because the struggle is visible. Look how busy I am. Look how much I'm enduring. That's a performance. Peace is invisible. No one is clapping for you when you're just sitting quietly in a room feeling regulated.
And that leads to the fear, right? The initial fear the source talks about.
Yeah.
When you stop performing, when you stop the urgency, you're just left alone with yourself.
And that can be terrifying.
It is terrifying.
Yeah.
I think for a lot of us, the busyness is just a buffer. If I'm running at 100 miles an hour, I don't have to actually hear my own thoughts.
It's a distraction strategy. For years, the performance, the rushing, it was all just noise covering up the silence. And the source argues that when that noise finally stops, you don't immediately feel zen. You feel exposed. You have to sit with who is actually there when the performance ends.
Okay, so let's unpack that. That's sitting with yourself part.
Yeah.
Because the source completely redefines what self-love looks like in this quiet space. And, spoiler alert, it is not bubble baths and champagne.
No, it's not consumerism.
Yeah.
The source is very clear on this. Self-love isn't a feeling you just wake up with one day.
It's a decision.
It is a decision, and it's usually a decision you have to make when it's really, really inconvenient.
That's such a helpful reframe.
Yeah.
It's easy to love yourself when you just got a promotion.
Yeah.
But what the source talks about is choosing not to abandon yourself just to keep other people comfortable.
Yes.
Can we make that more concrete? Like, what does that actually look like on a Tuesday afternoon?
It looks like disappointing someone else in order to avoid betraying yourself. So let's say you agreed to help a friend move.
Oh.
But the day comes and your body is just screaming, no, low, your stomach's in knots, your chest is tight. The performing version of you pushes through that signal to be the good friend.
Right, because you don't want to be rude. You don't want to be seen as flaky.
Exactly. But the source defines self-love as noticing that tightness, that physical, somatic signal, and responding to it with care, not with force. It's saying, I can't do this today, and then just accepting the fallout.
Letting silence replace reaction. That was a line that really stuck with me.
It's profound, isn't it? Usually when we're triggered or uncomfortable, we just react. We defend, we explain, we try to fix things. We're trying to manage everyone else's emotions so that we can feel safe. But this new state, this inner quietude, it's about pausing. And the source describes the feeling of this new safety not as glamorous, but as grounding and steady.
It's like finally exhaling after years of holding your breath.
Yeah.
I felt that in my bones.
Yeah.
But this creates a kind of paradox, doesn't it? Because you'd think, oh, I'm finally at peace. Everything must feel amazing. But the source warns that this phase often feels incredibly lonely.
It does, and we have to really look at the nuance there. The source argues that this loneliness isn't about an absence of people.
Okay.
It's a withdrawal from noise. If your entire social life was built on noise, on commiserating about stress, on frantic activity, on trauma bonding, then when you remove that noise, it's going to feel like emptiness at first.
It's like detoxing. If you stop eating sugar, you don't feel healthy on day one, you get a headache, you have craving.
Exactly. You are going through withdrawal from the chaos. And this touches on healing the past. You don't outgrow pain by pretending it didn't happen. You outgrow it by no longer needing to armor yourself against it.
And when you drop the armor.
You might realize some people in your life were only connecting with the armor, not with the actual person underneath.
That is a perfect transition into that term we teased earlier, nervous system maturity. I want to dig into this because maturity usually sounds like, I don't know, paying your taxes on time.
Right, or eating more fiber.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But this is physiological. What does a mature nervous system actually look like?
To get this, we have to look at how most of us operate. We're sort of stuck in a sympathetic dominant state that's fight or flight.
The default setting.
It is. Even if there's no bear chasing us, we react to an email like it's a predator. We are chemically addicted to cortisol and adrenaline.
So we're just revving the engine in neutral 24/7. Just burning gas, going nowhere, but the RPMs are redlining.
That's a great way to put it. Now, nervous system maturity, according to the source, is when your body finally learns it doesn't need to stay on high alert to survive. It is the biological realization that rest is not a threat.
Which is wild because for so many of us, rest feels dangerous. Like, if I stop, everything will fall apart. If I'm not vigilant, the other shoe's going to drop.
That's a nervous system stuck in survival mode.
Yeah.
The body literally believes that stillness equals death.
Wow.
If you're a gazelle on the savannah, stillness is death. But you aren't a gazelle. Nervous system maturity is that long, slow process of teaching your body, I am safe in the quiet.
But here's the kicker, and the source is really honest about this. To the outside world, this shift looks like you've lost your edge.
It does.
Right. Why isn't she posting about her new project? Why hasn't he been to the networking events? It looks like stagnation. It looks like you're falling off.
But the source says you aren't stuck. You are integrating. It says the soul is switching its interest from speed to sustainability.
I love that word, integrating. It's like you're downloading a massive software update. You can't use the computer while it's installing. The screen goes black, it looks dead, but it's actually doing the most important work it has ever done.
That is a perfect analogy. And once that update is installed, you operate differently. You process information differently. Which brings us to one of the hardest parts of this whole process.
Which is?
The tolerance drop.
Oh man, this is where it gets real. Because I think people assume that if you become enlightened or quiet, you become this super tolerant, chill person who just accepts everything.
But the source says the opposite happens.
The exact opposite.
It says your tolerance for chaos just plummets. When your baseline becomes peace, chaos feels physically intolerable. You lose your tolerance for inconsistency. You lose your tolerance for relationships that require you to betray yourself just to stay in them.
And I think this is where people get scared. They're turning into a jerk. You know, you used to be the chill friend who just went with the flow, even when the flow was toxic. Now you're saying, no, you're walking away from trauma, and people are like, whoa, you've changed, you're cold.
And the source addresses that fear head on. It distinguishes between coldness and clarity. It says, This isn't you becoming cold, this is you becoming clear.
There's a difference.
A massive difference. Coldness is shutting people out to punish them. Clarity is simply recognizing what fits in your life and what doesn't anymore.
But that recognition has a cost. The text has this line that really hit me. It says, "Not everything is meant to come with you into peace."
It's a heavy line.
Not everything is meant to come with you into peace.
Yes.
That implies relationships, jobs, habits. Some things might have to stay behind.
Yes. And this is why the source frames growth as subtraction. In our culture, we're obsessed with addition. Meaningful growth is always about more. More skills, more friends, more money.
More.
But this kind of internal growth, this deep dive, it's almost always about subtraction. Less explaining, less chasing, less fixing other people, less proving your worth.
That's scary, though, because we define ourselves by what we do. If I subtract the chasing and the fixing, what's left? What fills that space?
More listening, more pausing, more choosing what feels regulated over what looks impressive.
That choice between regulated and impressive is the struggle of the century. We are dopamine junkies for impressive. Impressive gets likes. Impressive gets you promoted. Regulated just feels, I don't know, boring.
To a nervous system that's addicted to chaos, calm is boring. It feels flat. But that's because your receptors are burnt out, you're used to the roller coaster. The source says that as you refine this, you stop chasing that dopamine hit of validation. You start valuing the sustainability of peace. You realize that impressive is often just a costume for exhausted.
It mentions refinement as a way to frame this loss of ambition. Can you explain that? Because if I stop wanting the big job title I've wanted for 5 years, have I failed? Am I just settling?
The source says no. That isn't failure, it's refinement. Think of it like a sculpture. You're chipping away the parts of your ambition that were never really yours to begin with.
Oh, that's interesting.
Maybe that job title was just something you thought would make you feel safe or worthy. Once you feel safe and worthy on your own because of that nervous system maturity, you just might not need the title anymore. The ambition didn't die. The need for it died.
Okay, so let's talk about the result of all this, the quiet version of yourself. Because this source makes a pretty bold claim that this quiet version is actually the most powerful version. And that feels so counterintuitive in a fake-it-till-you-make-it world.
It only feels that way until you connect it to the bigger picture. Why is the loud version loud? Usually it's driven by fear. It's fueled by a need for validation. It's addicted to outcomes.
It's a house of cards. One strong wind and it all falls down.
Exactly. But the quiet version, the rooted self, it isn't driven by any of that. The quote that really stood out to me was, "Rooted people don't rush."
Rooted people don't rush. I want that tattooed on my forehead, or at least on a sticky note on my monitor.
Think about a massive oak tree. It doesn't rush to grow. It doesn't scream for attention. It just is. It is entirely unbothered by the storms because its roots go so deep. That's the power the source is pointing to. It's a power that doesn't need to be broadcast to be real. It's just stability.
And the goal isn't just to be a tree, obviously. We still have to pay bills. The goal is what the source calls life design. It says we should be aiming for a life that doesn't require recovery from itself.
That is the ultimate metric of success in this framework. Not how much did I achieve, but did my day drain me so much that I need to escape my own life just to function tomorrow?
That is the loop so many of us are in. We work so hard to build a life that we are too exhausted to enjoy, so we binge watch TV or scroll for hours just to numb out, to recover.
Yeah.
So we can do it all again.
It's actually tragic when you say it out loud.
It is.
And the architecture of inner quietude is really the blueprint for breaking that cycle. It's about building a life where the baseline is peace, not stress. Where you don't need to dissociate at 8 p.m. because you didn't betray yourself at 10 a.m.
So let's bring this all home, literally. We've gone from the noise through the scary silence, the biological reset, the social subtraction, and we've arrived at this rooted place. For the listener who is maybe just starting this, who is feeling that urge to just stop the noise, what's the final reassurance?
The source really emphasizes that you don't need to reinvent yourself. I think that's a message a lot of us need to hear. We're always being sold, new year, new you. We think we need to burn our personality to the ground and build a new one.
Right, like I have to become a completely different person to be happy.
You don't. The source says you are just coming home. And home isn't built in a day. It is built slowly, quietly, with consistency.
It's the small things.
Yeah.
The daily decisions to be honest with yourself about what you can handle. The self-respect to say no to one thing. The 5 minutes of just breathing instead of scrolling.
And realizing that if you're in a phase that feels slow or quiet or even a little lonely, you aren't stagnant. You're resonating at a different frequency. You're letting your nervous system demand space in a loud world. You are actively healing the very machinery that allows you to experience life.
It's funny, we started this by talking about the noise fading, and I hope for everyone listening, this deep dive helped turn the volume down just a little bit. It's not about becoming a monk or moving to the mountains.
No, it's about that internal shift. It's about safety. It's about knowing you are okay without the applause. It's knowing you still exist even when you aren't making noise.
Exactly. So we want to leave you with one final thought to mull over, something to carry with you.
We've talked a lot about the performance, the masks we wear, the urgency we project. So here's the question the source leaves us with. If you stopped performing today, completely stopped trying to impress, explain, or prove, who would you be when the silence finally settles?
That's the question. Thanks for diving deep with us. We'll see you next time.